Had to kick off the air. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm your dizzying host for the day, Kris. The main host, the other Kris, he's gone. White shirt Kris, he's gone. But I am here in his place and I'm eating hummus still. Oh, it's good. Have you guys ever heard of it? It's really good. This is Police Prank Criminal on Camera. That is Mrballen. I am Kris. And this is Sam from Holland Request. So I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it hard with both hands. I don't even know what that means. YouTube gathering, something happened. I don't know. I haven't thought of anything. Like and subscribe to the channel. And shut up. That was mean. I apologize for that. Like and subscribe to the channel or be brutally murdered by the Wallisica axe murder man. That was 100+ years ago. He's probably dead by now, so you're safe. So go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Because if you give it a thumbs down, you're just a dick. Probably touch children. Yeah. Video time.
Filming when a truly diabolical crime was committed there. And so cops captured this crime on camera. But someone in their...
Oh yeah, real fast. I apologize, Greg. I was going to do this before. So this is a store-bought, generic, great value restaurant style. I said I made my own, which I do. This is the store-bought one. You really can't tell there. But the difference is this is mine. It's just, like I say, it's just tortillas. And this is the other one. This is a little bit thicker. It's been sitting for a while, which is fine. I salted it up. Still good. You can make them. Just get those tortillas, cut them into little pie shapes. That one's blown up a little bit. Cut them into little pie shapes. Throw them in some, I cook mine in peanut oil. I mean, they're all consistently pretty much the same shape. I just, they're circle. I get I don't remember, it was like 50 of them. Stack about that high. I cut it in half again, and then just do it that way. And just make your own. Throw them in, I got a cast iron thing and an induction cooker. Throw it on there, 325, something like that, 330. I don't remember what it was. Was it 350? Maybe it was something like that, 325, 350. I throw it on there, let it cook up, and then I just throw like 10 of them in there. Let them cook on one side for about 30 seconds, and then I flip them. Get little tongs, flip them, let them cook another minute, take them out on paper towel, salt them right then if that's what you want, move on to the next batch. They dry out relatively quickly, and the more they dry out, the crunchier they get. As opposed to store-bought. Still the same, just a little thinner. But I do it. I don't do it all the time, but occasionally when I'm going to eat a lot of salsa or guacamole, then I make it. I have 2 of these big ones and then a smaller one about that size. I just do it. I do it occasionally. I like it. It's good. Back to the video. Sorry.
footage was hiding something. And when you know what that something was, it becomes very obvious when you watch. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please ask the like button if you can borrow their car for the week, and then when they say yes, spend that week driving around, picking up as much roadkill as possible and packing it into their trunk. Picking up as much roadkill as you possibly can and pack it into their back seat in their trunk and then return the car. Also, please subscribe to our channel.
Don't do that. That would make the car stink. Why would you ask someone to do that? It's just very inappropriate. Am I right? Guy who doesn't get the
all
joke.
Notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
We're going to the Middle East next week to perform this song. Harmonicas and banjos.
Michael DiPolito grew up in a very rough neighborhood in South Philadelphia where violence, drugs, and prostitution were just normal parts of everyday life. At a young age, like his parents, Michael became an alcoholic. He also developed a very serious drug addiction that he paid for by selling drugs. Michael would eventually drop out of high school, and not long after that, he became homeless and was living out on the streets, sleeping in abandoned buildings at night to stay warm. In 1993, when Michael was still in South Philadelphia, he was arrested for the first time. He was charged with possession of an unknown drug as well as intent to distribute this unknown drug. Court records don't specify what drug this was. However, Michael just did not show up for court, and so a warrant was put out for his arrest. Michael would somehow manage to evade police capture, and by 1997, he had fled South Philly altogether and landed in South Florida in a town called Boca Raton. Shortly after arriving there, Michael was arrested for a second time, this time for offering an undercover police officer $15 in exchange for sex. Michael would plead guilty to soliciting prostitution, however, he would just get released. A year after the prostitution arrest, Michael was sued by a former girlfriend named Karen Tan, who claimed he was the father of her son, and so he owed her child support. And Karen had a DNA test.
I'm not trying to get into any kind of, thing, but did anyone hear the story of a 14-year-old boy? This was in Arizona. So, Kylie, maybe you've heard of it. It's an older story. The guy's 20 now. So 6 years ago, he's 14. He was 14. He got raped by a 20-year-old woman. She went to jail, whatever happened to her. She ended up getting pregnant. Has the kid. The guy's 14, he becomes 20 years old. And one day he gets told that this woman who raped him and had his baby is coming after him for back child support. And the state of Arizona agreed with her. And he owed $15,000 back child support. And they were garnishing his wages at about $348 a week. On what planet do we live where that is acceptable? Anyone? Anyone want to say that she was absolutely in the right to do that? Anyone? Anyone want to stand up for her for that? You want to keep the kid, that's fine. But you raped somebody and you decided to keep the kid, and now you have the courts agree with you that they owe you money. And some people say it's easy being a guy. This is the reason why a lot of guys don't get married. It's ridiculous. Sorry.
Backed up this claim. However, Michael, again, would just not show up for court, and before long, Karen just gave up and dropped the lawsuit. Michael was likely very relieved when this happened, because at the time, he was making almost no money through a temp agency. And so after this lawsuit gets dropped, Michael decides, I need to go out and make some real money. And somehow, on his quest to find a more lucrative opportunity, Michael was introduced to associates of the Bonanno family. And the Bonanno family is one of the infamous 5 families that dominates organized crime across the United States. They are literally the Italian mafia. And after the mafia met Michael, they took a liking to him, and they did offer him a more lucrative, albeit illegal, opportunity. They gave him a role inside one of their so-called boiler rooms. A boiler room is not literally a boiler room. Instead, it's a group of fraudsters that use high-pressure sales tactics to steal
It's also an awesome movie.
money from unsuspecting victims. Typically, the way it works is the fraudster will cold call someone and they will tell them that they have this great get-rich-quick scheme, but you gotta give me your money right now if you want to be a part of it. And so when the victim says, okay, that sounds great, and they wire the money along, the fraudster just steals their money. Michael, who was very charismatic and a natural salesman, got really good at tricking people into giving him their money. And so eventually, Michael realized he could make a lot more money if he started his own boiler room, where his commission could be much higher on the money he stole. And so fairly abruptly, he left the mafia's boiler room. We don't really know how they reacted to this. And Michael would set up not one, but 2 boiler room scams of his own in South Florida. And by 2002, he had pocketed $155,000 of stolen money. However, he had spent virtually all of it on fancy hotels and cars and phone sex. But the good times would not last for Michael, because in 2002, the police caught on to Michael's boiler room scams and they raided them, and Michael was arrested for a 3rd time, except this time he would go to court, he would stand trial, and he would be sentenced to 2 years in prison, 28 years of probation, and he would be ordered to pay back the
28 years of probation. Holy sharks.
$155,000 that he stole. Michael would only serve 7 months of his 2-year jail sentence, but that was more than enough to leave a huge impact on him. Michael hated prison. He hated every second of it.
Good.
And so during those long sleepless nights that he was laying awake in his cell, he made a promise to himself that when he got out, when he was released, he would never, ever come back. And so in 2003, when he was released, he immediately entered a sobriety program. He also started going to the gym every morning, and he began studying for his GED, which is a high school equivalency test because he didn't get his high school diploma. After he successfully earned his GED a couple of months later, he would also start a legal business. It was a digital marketing firm that was called Mad Money Inc. Over the next several years, Michael would do his very best to stay on the straight and narrow and not get in trouble. And for the most part, he did that. By 2008, Michael was still sober, despite a few setbacks, and he was still very focused on his physical fitness and his health, and his business, Mad Money, was doing quite well, earning him nearly $100,000 a year. But his love life had become
That's a nice turnaround.
bit messy. Michael had gotten married back in 2007 to his longtime girlfriend named Maria Luongo, who had stood by him when he went to jail. But that year, in 2008, when Michael was 38 years old, he cheated on Maria with a 26-year-old real estate agent named Dalia Mohammed, who he met at a Starbucks. And instead of their affair being a quick fling, as they likely both intended it to be, Michael and Dalia quickly fell in love. And when that happened, Michael went to his wife Maria and he told her, and then he divorced her. Just 3 days after the divorce finalized, Michael and Dalia went to the courthouse and they got married. The newlyweds would move into a brand new condo that Michael had purchased for them in Boynton Beach, which is a beautiful town in South Florida. And for a time, their life was perfect. They knew it was a little outrageous the way they had met each other and how quickly they had fallen for each other, but they didn't care. They got along great and they were excited about the future. But their
If you cheat on somebody and then you end up falling in love, you probably weren't right for your first wife. Sucks that you cheated. But ultimately, if those two were happy together at the end, it sucks that the other people got hurt, but
perfect life would not last long. On the evening of March 12th, 2009, so only about a month after they had gotten married, Michael and Dalia were at home in their condo when they heard a knock on the front door. And so Michael went to the door, he opened it up, and much to his surprise, standing on the other side was his probation officer, and behind him was a whole bunch of police officers. And before Michael could even ask what was going on, the probation officer told Michael that they had received an anonymous call tipping them off that Michael was selling steroids and ecstasy pills and other drugs out of his condo. Michael would tell the probation officer that there was no way that was true. He is not selling any drugs, he's sober, he's not not doing that. And so eventually Michael just stepped aside and said, please come in, search my condo. I have nothing to hide. And so sure enough, the police, they would go into his condo, they would search it, but they wouldn't find anything and they would leave. And so after the police had gone, Michael and Dahlia found...
It's that ex-wife, isn't it? See, he cheated on her. That's what happened.
Just standing in their condo, completely dumbfounded. But instead of trying to get to the bottom of it right then and there about who had called and why, they just decided it was best for them to just leave their condo for the night and go stay at a nice hotel. And so they packed up some bags, they left their condo, which was a total mess from the police search, and they went to the hotel and they had a nice night together. The next morning, when they got up and headed down to the parking lot, they saw up ahead, standing around Michael's car, was Michael's probation officer as well as several other police officers. And so Michael and Dahlia are looking at each other like, what is this, again? And so they hustle on over to Michael's car, and before they can even plead their innocence to Michael's probation officer, he stops Michael and just says, look, we got another anonymous call, this time telling us that you are selling drugs out of your vehicle, and so we need to search it. And so Michael is just totally beside himself, but he says, look, go ahead, search it, there's nothing in the car. And so sure enough, the police would open up his car, they'd rip it apart, but again, they wouldn't find anything. Over the next couple of weeks, the only thing Michael and Dahlia ever wanted to talk about was what the heck was going on. Who is placing these anonymous calls claiming that Michael was selling drugs out of the condo and out of the car? It just didn't add up.
Gotta be the ex-wife. Or does she have somebody that... I don't know.
They wanted to believe that this was all just one big mistake, but in the back of both of their minds, they were thinking about Michael's very checkered past and his previous dealings with the mafia and with people he had clearly ripped off. And so maybe there was someone in his past that was looking to get back at Michael and maybe get him arrested and sent back to jail. Fast forward to March 29th, so 17 days after that first raid on their condo, and that night, Michael and Dahlia had been eating dinner at a restaurant, and when they left and headed out to the parking lot, once again, standing around Michael's car were several police officers clearly waiting for him to return. And so without even needing to ask why they were there, Michael and Dahlia, they go over to them and they just start pleading with them to understand that this is a setup. We do not have drugs in this car. We don't know what's going on here. Please, you gotta understand that someone's doing this to us. But this time, when they searched his car, they would find something.
What'd they find?
Before we go any further, I want to tell you about today's sponsor.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Back when I was just a young buck in college, I was broke. And so naturally, I took out a credit card with a $5,000 limit and immediately maxed it out on buffalo chicken calzones and beer. Now, after searching Michael's car, the police would find a small bag of cocaine stuck inside of a cigarette carton,
what are you doing, man?
tucked underneath his spare tire in the trunk. And when Michael saw them pull the cocaine out, he began to cry because he knew, even though it was not his and he had not put it there, that he was going to jail because he was going to get arrested for possession and he was on probation and he was screwed. And so he just begins crying and pleading with police to understand that the cocaine was not his. He swears it's not his. Meanwhile, Dahlia, she's looking at the drugs and now she's second guessing herself. Is Michael lying? Is he actually selling drugs? And he's been lying to me too? But when she sees her husband crying hysterically and looking so sincere, she believes that he's got to be telling the truth. And so pretty soon she was standing beside Michael and pleading with police as well to let them go, that this was totally just a setup. And amazingly, these police officers who were aware of the previous raids on Michael and Dahlia's property, they told them, look, we do think this is pretty suspicious that somebody keeps calling in about you selling drugs and now magically the drugs are in your car. And so what we're going to do is we're going to confiscate this cocaine. We're not going to arrest you. Instead, go home, be safe, call us if you see anything strange, you hear anything strange, and we're going to begin investigating to figure out who is making all of these calls. And so Michael and Dahlia were totally relieved to hear this.
That's nice. Because if they can investigate the calls, find out who's calling. Because in the end, if he really does have it, they have him. Like you're busted right now. We can always come back to this. So now we're going to look into it. But in the end, if it's you, we've already got you. That's nice. That's crazy. Seems unrealistic, but that's nice.
But at the same time, they were kind of terrified because clearly whoever was looking to get Michael in trouble now was prepared to break into his property in order to do it. And so what was stopping them from breaking into their condo and planting drugs in there as well? And so after these police officers left, Michael and Dahlia hopped in the car, they sped back to their condo, and they went inside and they searched it top to bottom, looking for any sign that anyone had recently been in there or if there were drugs or anything illegal inside of their condo. And after looking and finding nothing, they just locked their doors, shut their windows, shut the blinds, and just prayed that the police would be able to quickly identify who was doing this to them and make them stop. But over the next few months, the police would not figure out who this anonymous caller was because the caller stopped calling. And so for a little while, Michael and Dahlia were convinced that the whole ordeal was over and done with, and they basically returned to their normal lives. But on August 5th, 2000...
Did the person think that with that planting of evidence, he's gone to jail, I don't have to worry about that? Maybe they thought that sealed it. He's going back to jail.
2009, roughly 4 months after the cocaine was found in Michael's car, the anonymous caller would come back with a vengeance. On that morning at around 5:45 a.m., Dahlia left the condo, leaving Michael in bed, and she headed out to the local gym to get a workout in. Around 6:30 in the morning, she stepped off the treadmill and she looked at her phone and she saw she had a missed call from a number she didn't recognize, and this number had left her a voicemail. And so she calls her voicemail, she puts it to her ear, and as she's listening, her heart starts to race because it was a Boynton Beach detective telling her there had been some sort of incident at her condo and she needed to come back right away. Terrified, Dahlia grabbed her things and she ran out of the gym, she got in her car, and she called this number back. And when the detective picked up, she tried to get more information from him about what this incident was, what happened. And the detective would only say that it involved her husband, and he would explain everything when she came back. And
did the mafia come and kill this man?
so in a total state of shock, Dahlia turned on her car and she sped out of the parking lot and she headed back towards her condo. And when she turned onto her street and saw her condo, she hit the brakes and just stared. In front of her condo were all these police cars with their lights on, and police officers were walking around, and yellow crime scene tape was lining the outside of her property. And inside of the taped off area, there were all these crime scene photographers taking pictures of her condo. And so as Dahlia is sitting in her car at the top of the street, just staring at this crazy scene she's seeing, one of the Boynton Beach police officers sees her and walks up, and after confirming that she was Dahlia DiPolito, he said to her, leave your car here and come with me. And so Dahlia, who knows obviously something bad has happened, but really doesn't know the extent of it, she puts her car in park, she gets out, and she begins walking with this police officer over towards this cluster of 3 people that are standing right in front of her property. And it would turn out one of them was the detective who had called her on the phone. And so Dahlia's led over, and that detective, as soon as he sees Dahlia, he walks over to her and he says to her very matter-of-factly that someone had called about a disturbance in their condo, and shots were fired, and unfortunately her husband Michael was dead. Dahlia, who was totally hysterical, was gently led away from her condo into a nearby police
ex-wife or mafia? Was the ex-wife in the mafia? Wow, that sucks.
car, and they would drive her to the police station where they would sit her down and begin asking her questions about her husband. And they would say to her, look, I know you just found this out, but we gotta figure out what could have happened because a killer is on the loose. We need to find this person and stop them. And so at first, the conversation was really just Dahlia crying and the detective kind of calming her down. But eventually, she would tell the detective about the anonymous caller who kept calling the police and claiming Michael was selling drugs, and how she and Michael suspected that, probably the anonymous caller was connected to someone from his past, maybe someone from the mafia, or maybe one of the victims of his boiler room scam, or it could be any number of other people.
I forgot all about the boiler room scams, because this man's lived one hell of a life.
that Michael had done wrong in the past. And so the detective, he's taking diligent notes and he's listening to Dahlia. And then at some point in a break in the conversation, he says to Dahlia, okay, it's time to get serious. I need to know if you know this guy. And so Dahlia, she was kind of looking down and she looks up, confused what he's talking about. And then the door opens and this huge guy in handcuffs walks into the room.
Come here. Bring this guy in here. Get over here. Get over here. You know who this guy is?
No,
You've never seen him before.
I've never seen him before. Ever.
Do you know her?
Put your head up and look at her.
Put your head up.
I've never seen him.
What were you doing coming out of her house? Get him out of here.
It would
Is that her ex-boyfriend or husband or whatever?
turn out Dahlia was lying. She did know who that guy was. Almost immediately after marrying Michael 6 months earlier, she had stolen $200,000 from him, but apparently that wasn't enough for her. She needed the rest of Michael's money as well as his condo. And so she had been the anonymous caller.
I was looking at every other person but her. God damn you, Mr. Ballen.
was the one calling the police and tipping them off that Michael was selling drugs out of the condo and out of his car. She was the one who planted the cocaine in the back of his car because she wanted him to get arrested because he was on probation and he would go back to jail for a really long time. But when her efforts failed and Michael did not get arrested and so did not go back to jail, Dahlia moved on to Plan B. She reached out to one of her ex-boyfriends and she asked him, hey, do you know any hitmen that could murder my husband? And the ex-boyfriend at first didn't think she was serious, but when she kept asking him about it and began offering to pay and really was making it clear that she wasn't joking around, the ex-boyfriend basically told her, no, I don't know any hitmen. And then he, the ex-boyfriend, called the Boynton Beach Police Department and told them about Dahlia and her plan to hire a hitman to
What a good dude.
kill Michael. And so when the Boynton Beach Police Department found out about this plot, they immediately had one of their undercover agents pose as a hitman and set up a meeting with Dahlia. And so the undercover agent was that huge guy in handcuffs that was led into the room with Dahlia. And so Dahlia goes to meet the undercover agent, the fake hitman. She gets into his car and there's a hidden camera in the back seat that's filming her the whole time. And she's caught on camera saying she wants to kill her husband. She gives money to the undercover agent. And then as she's about to get out, the agent turns to her and he says, are you sure you want to do this? Because as soon as you leave, it's done. I am going to kill Michael and you can't stop it. This is Dahlia's reaction.
There's no changing, no, there's no, like, I'm determined already. I'm positive, like, 5,000% sure, like, no, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, as soon as he told me, listen, I need the money from you, I went, I grabbed it right away, like, we were good to go. Like, with me, you're not going to have a problem, you're not going to have an issue.
And so the Boynton Beach Police Department, they have all this information about what Dahlia thinks is going to happen, and they decide they can use this information to set her up in the most elaborate way possible. And it just so happened the very popular true crime.
Wait a minute. So is the husband dead? Or did they go to the house when she was gone? What the hell's happening here?
TV show, Cops, was filming in the area. And so the Boynton Beach Police Department allowed cops to be a part of this elaborate setup. So they got to film everything that happened. So
Anybody, I know Cops is still on, but back in the day in the 90s, on Saturday nights, my mom and I would watch Cops and then America's Most Wanted. That was our Saturday night. It was great.
So, on the morning of August 5th, Dahlia got up and left her condo at 5:45 a.m. and headed to the gym, knowing, at least in her mind, that the hitman would be coming to her condo right after her, breaking in and shooting her husband twice in the head, because that was the plan they had come up with that was captured on film. And so after the police see her leave at 5:45 a.m.,
Then they went
because they
in.
were monitoring the condo, they rushed in, they knocked on the door, and they got Michael to come downstairs. And he had no idea his wife wife was trying to kill him. And so he comes to the door, he's totally confused, but he goes with them and he's kind of ushered off to the police station. And then for about the next hour, the police set up a very convincing fake crime scene right out front of the condo. And then once it was all set up, that detective called Dahlia and left her a voicemail saying that, there's been this incident, you need to come back to your condo. And then a couple of minutes later, when Dahlia called them back and said, okay, I'm coming back to the condo now, that's when the TV crews for the Cops TV show, they kind of set up in the bushes and got ready to film what happened next.
Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and then...
She didn't know the cameras were there then. Wow. This is awesome.
Shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, he's been killed. He's been killed, ma'am. I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
Listen.
No.
Try to calm down.
No.
Listen, right now what we need to get you to the station.
No.
We need to get you to our police station.
I want to see him.
I can't let you in, man. We have to do our job.
After the fake hitman was pulled out,
Wow. She's very convincing for a psychopath.
out of the interrogation room after Dahlia had said, oh, I don't know who he is, the detective just stared at her in total silence for a minute. And then he broke the news that he totally knew all about her murder plot and that she was going to jail.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
You're going to jail today for solicitation of murder. You're under arrest. That's an undercover police officer. Everything has been recorded. You were photographed in the convertible when you sat in his car in the front of CVS. What do you want to do? What do you want to do here?
I didn't do
Dahlia?
anything.
Listen to
I
me.
didn't do anything.
You're going
I
to
didn't do
jail.
anything, please. I didn't do anything.
Tell me you didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything.
You're going to jail today. As soon as I'm done, they're going to come in here and handcuff you and take you to the Palm Beach County Jail, book you for solicitation of first-degree murder on your husband. Your husband is well and alive.
Thank God.
Oh, yeah, thank God.
Please, can I see him?
No, he doesn't
please?
want to see you.
I so wanted to see him.
He doesn't want to see you.
Please.
After Dahlia was arrested, she was still sitting in that interrogation room when the Boynton Beach Police Department made a special point of walking Dahlia's husband, Michael, past the open door so she could see him. Here's her reaction.
Oh my God.
He's alive.
Come here, please. Come here. Mike, come here. Come here, please. Come here. Why not? I didn't do anything to you. Mike, come here, please. Come here.
Okay. Like, we'll take her back to booking, please.
Well, what does she expect? He's going to walk back and she's going to be like, I didn't mean it. He's going to be like, oh, okay. And all's forgiven. No. You can't trust that woman. Oh, man, what a great ending. I feel bad for him. His wife tried to have him murdered. I mean, that kind of... If he went gay, I would understand. It kind of takes your trust and faith out of women to a certain degree. Wow. I didn't do anything.
Dahlia was initially sentenced to 20 years in prison for what she had done, but after a retrial because of jury bias, her sentence was reduced to 16 years.
What?
So that's going to do it.
I mean, I guess no one was hurt, but still. I don't think there's any bias. 20 years, you get it reduced to 16. Is that enough? I mean, bias, really? What's the bias? What was it, a bunch of guys all making up the juror who had all had wives that tried to kill them? That's biased. And they were like, put her to death. Yeah, I could understand. Okay, yeah, that would be a little biased. They were saying, put her to death, and she owes him money. Wow, I did not see this one coming. I did not expect her at all. I was expecting ex-wife, mafia, and then the boiler room situation got brought up. I was just like, yeah, somebody is out to get them. Never once thinking the them. It was her of them. Wow. Sam, this was a good one. That was a good one. I was a fool. I was going, and I was so, I don't know if you could tell, but I was so giddy at the end. I enjoyed it so much. I didn't do anything. Come here. I need to talk to you. Come here. I need to talk to you. Like, what were you going to say? Look, I did try to have you killed, but it was just a goof. He wasn't going to do it. I knew it was an undercover cop the whole time. Yeah, sure you did. Wow. Well, I'm going to end this here. Like and subscribe. And give me more requests. I enjoy them. Yeah, this one was good. This one was crazy. This is a newer one, I believe. I'm not used to doing the newer ones. I'm doing the older ones. I want to jump back into some of the older ones too. But yeah, this is a good one. I have heartburn now. It's not from the hummus. It's from the avocado salsa. Oh my gosh. Folks, I apologize. I just remembered I haven't given you a good old cushion squeeze. I know. I apologize. So we're going to end this here. It's 5 o'clock. I got to do a couple videos. No, it'll be for the next one. The next video. The next video I'm going to do is going to be this shopper got caught doing something evil on camera. It's another Sam from Holland request. I am going to show you some cups that I recently bought for my family. One of them that I bought for my dad says, it's a coffee cup, and it says, "I'm working harder than an ugly stripper." And he got it and just looked at it and started laughing. He goes, I can't use this. So I think he's just going to put it up somewhere and just have it shown to everyone. But I'll bring those other cups in. But I'm going to end this here. Thank you guys. This is a good one, Sam. I liked it. Have a good day. Have a good night.